Good afternoon. Welcome everyone to the Montana Renewable Energy Association's Exploring Energy series. If you are just tuning in now, let us know who you are, put your name, organization, and where you're joining from in the chat. So the Exploring Energy series is a monthly lunchtime presentation where we cover energy issues impacting Montana and beyond. We hold these on the first Wednesday of every month at noon Mountain Time to explore energy technology, the latest trends in energy development, and connect with experts working on the future of our energy system. You can learn more about MREA's full Exploring Energy series in the link that I've just shared. So we have an archive of all of our past Exploring Energy presentations on our YouTube channel. In May, we covered EV facts and fiction with longtime MREA member and educator Dan Brandberg. That one was a great recording, great tool for prospective EV buyers, whether you're a city dweller or if you're living in more of the rural small town folks. But you can find that and more in MREA's Exploring Energy series library on our YouTube page, which I've just also put in the chat there to go check it out. Couple housekeeping items. Please keep yourself muted during the presentation if you would be so kind. There will be opportunities for question and discussion at the end of this presentation. You can submit your questions at any time in the chat function. I'll be keeping track of those, and then we'll do our Q&A. Save it for the end, please. If we don't get to your question by the end of this presentation, we will do our very best to answer it. Just shoot us an email. It's info@montanarenewables.org, and we'll get that taken care of. This session is being recorded, and we will make sure it's available to all attendees and registrants later this week. So a little bit about MREA. If you're new to us, we are a membership-based organization. We're a nonprofit focused on advancing the renewable energy industry through education, policy, and advocacy, as well as industry engagement. We're very much built on our membership. We have a diverse membership, including students, households, nonprofits, businesses, and the industry professionals working in and day out for Montana's clean energy economy. So if becoming a member interests you, if you really like the Exploring Energy series, or you want to be engaged with MREA, we invite you to consider becoming a member. And oops, the link to join is here. Okay. And then one more general announcement here. The Montana Clean Energy Fair is coming up in a few short months. We are headed to Billings, Montana on August 24th, and we have sponsorship, exhibitor, and EV car show spaces open for you. So you can follow that QR code, get connected up with our Clean Energy Fair coordinator, Kaylee Smith, and figure out some of the ways that you might want to be involved in MREA's flagship event of the summer. The Clean Energy Fair is all about educating, equipping, connecting, and inspiring everyday Montanans and communities with the knowledge and tools needed for the renewable energy transition. So that about covers the general announcements. And here you thought you were just coming to learn about a webinar and a presentation, but I actually have a homework item for you. The Montana Clean Energy Fair Facebook event is live. We could absolutely use your help spreading the word. So if you can take one action item away from the Exploring Energy series today, beyond the content that we're sharing on the DOE's Office of Community Engagement, which I'm very thrilled and will be introducing our guest speaker here shortly. I have the one request of you: if you would be willing to share, like, or spread the word through MREA's Clean Energy Fair Facebook event, that would be a huge help because you all are our biggest champions and our biggest advocates. So thank you all for that. All right. So going now to the brunt of the content of our presentation here, I'm very pleased to announce that the DOE Office of Community Engagement has agreed to present to MREA about their function and how they might be able to help communities and individuals alike with making their clean energy projects a reality. So without further ado, would love to introduce to you Selena C.C. Horvat, is a community engagement specialist for the Western states and U.S. territories for the Office of Community Engagement with DOE. Before joining the Office of Community Engagement, CC facilitated and managed programs focusing on environmental equity issues and collaborative processes to support environmental justice-focused projects at the local, state, and federal level. CC's background includes experience with diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives, as well as alternative dispute resolution. Cece has a Master's of Science degree at the School for Environment of Sustainability from the University of Michigan. So, Cece, we're so glad to have you. Welcome. Welcome to MREA, and the floor is yours.
Great. Thanks, everybody. I also really love to see that you all are chatty in the chat. So I might be utilizing that and like to hear from you all. So let me share screen and we will get started. All right. Can you all see my screen? I got a thumbs up from McKenna, so let's rock and roll. So as McKenna said, my name is Cece. I am from the Office of Community Engagement here at the Department of Energy. We are a fairly new office, and some of you may or may not have seen my colleague Peter present to some of you all today. So we've got some similar information, but new information that we will let you know about. All right, so for our agenda today, I'm going to go over a little bit about who we are, Office of Community Engagement, highlight some programs that McKenna thought would be most interesting and relevant to you all, make some Montana connections based on projects that have happened with DOE, and ways to stay connected, and then questions. So as you can see, this map, this is where I am, the West Coast and U.S. territories. Your main specialist is actually Bobby Boyd. Bobby is helping out one of our offices at DOE today in Minnesota, so that's why he's not able to be here. And then you may have heard from Peter because he has a focus on rural and tribal. So that's rural and tribal for the whole United States. So he covers big ground. And so we all tag team and help each other out when needed. And so both Peter and Bobby are traveling, so you all are stuck with me today. But what I will be telling you is a little bit specific to Montana, but if you had more questions related to Montana or rural questions, that would be a Bobby and Peter question. But McKenna can help you connect us as need be. And then as you can see, there are specialists all across the country that we help to serve and have this regional approach with our outreach. So this is our team on the left-hand side. It's not just the engagement specialists. We have support staff and leadership staff who carry us along. And basically, without reading the full mission statement, it is we are a front door resource. We're here to help connect people to DOE who maybe are looking for new connections, beginning connections, or strengthening connections. And I still like to use the term Rolodex. We're here to add to your Rolodex of DOE contacts and also be that DOE matchmaker. So connect you where you need to be, whether that's program and funding opportunities, offices, and more. So we have had whole offices start because of some of the funding that has happened over the past couple of years. So that funding includes the Building Infrastructure Law bill or the Inflation Reduction Act, IRA, and then the CHIPS and Science Act. So they've started programs, they've started offices, and many of the clean energy transition things that are coming out of DOE are because of these three funding streams. So I know that DOE is huge. It's also kind of hard to think for me, especially coming into this role. I started in January. I thought, what is DOE? Sometimes everyone has a different interpretation of what DOE is to them, and would be curious just as a thoughtful exercise of when you think of DOE, what do you think of? What topics do you think of? Do you think of some of these topics? Do you think of other topics? Feel free to add them in the chat if you'd like. It's always just an interesting thing to keep people engaged and hear what you all think about when you think about DOE. I think for me, I think about solar panels, EV chargers, but we're so much more than that. We are cybersecurity. We think about the electric grid, wind turbines. We dabble in marine energy as well. And so we intersect with a lot of different federal agencies. And yes, public and private and partnerships I see people putting in the chat. So we reach a lot of different topics, and it's hard to navigate them all. And then the people we work with is super diverse. This is not a full list of who we reach out to, but it is a little bit of it. I have a pop quiz question for you. So we have labs and consortiums different that we work with at the Department of Energy. And I'm wondering if you know the closest lab to you all. So that's a pop quiz question. No one is getting graded for it, but I figured I'd just ask for fun if people know what is the closest national lab. NREL, yeah, it's possible. NREL. Does Idaho National Lab? Yeah, I think those two are the closest ones. Yeah, Idaho and NREL. So great to know that you all know about the labs. The labs are actually out of the Office of Science, which is, again, one of many of almost over a dozen offices that we have here at DOE. So we're big. That's the point that I'm trying to get at. Lots to navigate. Okay, so what we are going to highlight today, we're going to highlight some of the things on the left side. I'll start with that, the program highlights that McKenna had thought would be a good idea, and then touch upon additional highlights. This is not going to be an in-depth dive into all of these programs, and I'll go through them pretty fast because I do want to make sure we have time for questions, but I know that you all will be getting some you'll get the recording and then you'll also get the slides after, and hoping to leave you all with wanting more. So you are reaching out to Bobby and Peter to learn about these projects. And I see in the chat that someone asked what the labs do. They do so much. They do research on almost any topic that you could think of in the science world. And they also do outreach to their community. So I live really close to Berkeley National Lab, and they do research on fission and fusion and things that are very much over my head, but they're also very involved with the community. They employ a lot of people in the community as well. So the labs are really cool opportunities to reach out to and connect with. I also know that I'm presenting later this month to the community working group that is a part of the local Berkeley lab. So there might be opportunities like that to involve you all as community members or just interested in learning more. All right, so we're going to get into it. So first thing I'm going to highlight is the American Made Challenges. This is a really cool opportunity that is of interest to people. Feel free to raise your hand if you know, or in the chat.
In Missoula,
I'm not trying to play.
Montana, we're working.
Sorry, didn't mean for that to start playing automatically. But the thing that I wanted to highlight with this slide is that if you open your internet browser and search American Made Challenges, these are opportunities, funding opportunities that are much different than any other federal funding opportunity. They're unique. The money actually comes from DOE, from our many offices, down to the national labs, and then out to people who want to apply for these prizes. Money can be distributed much faster than the regular grant opportunities, and they're also very unique opportunities. They're changing all the time. They're as simple as a solar photo contest to hundreds of thousands of dollars to millions of dollars to these unique ideas. So I encourage you all to check them out. And I will play this quick video. Some of you may have seen it before. It is not a video that DOE made, but this is an example of a Montana organization who did receive some funding from one of the many American-made challenges, aka DOE prizes. So it's 1 minute and 28 seconds, and it gives you a chance to not have to hear my voice the whole time. So I'm going to play it real quick, and then I'll keep moving forward.
To build career pathways for low-income moms and women to enter the clean energy workforce. This initiative is a collaboration of 4 core partners. Mountain Home Montana, a local nonprofit providing wraparound services to roughly 200 low-income moms and their kids each year. Missoula Economic Partnership, expanding prosperity by engaging in strategic business development. Climate Smart Missoula, a nonprofit experienced in catalyzing equitable climate action, and Missoula County, which is committed to a just and equitable clean energy transition. Over the last few months, our coalition has hosted a series of career awareness workshops to connect clean energy professionals with Mountain Home moms, youth interns, and members of the public. We've also met with numerous employers, unions, educational institutions, government partners, and nonprofit stakeholders as we strive to create accessible pre-apprenticeship pathways to empower more women to enter the clean energy trades. In Montana, the trades are overwhelmingly white, male-dominated. We're working to understand the barriers women face, especially single moms, to entering this workforce, and we're working to stand up a Missoula Tradeswomen Alliance as we seek to build more gender-inclusive, caregiver-friendly workplaces. Our team has learned the value of listening and relationship building throughout this process. We know that the collaborative partnerships forged through our coalition have created a strong foundation for which to continue our work of growing a more equitable, clean energy workforce.
I think so. So I put the link to the work that they're doing and the prize that they won. They won a $230,000, $100,000, sorry, for their opportunity and to be able to do this. So that link is going to be in these slides, and you'll have access to them later, so you can check them out. So I'm going to jump through a couple other funding opportunities. This is Renew America Schools. This is an ongoing project and it is through a prize. It used to be through a grant, but this prize makes it more accessible to people. Basically, your local school districts can apply to this funding to do energy efficiency upgrades. Here are some of the details. I'm not going to run through all of them, but the purpose and eligible entities and some rules. There are webinars if you're interested in learning more about it that do exist already out there. Basically, energy costs is one of the, I think, number 2 expense for school districts. So being able to retrofit school districts, whether that's stoves, heating and cooling, other energy efficiency upgrades for school districts to be available to them. So interesting opportunity that is out now. And here are just an overview a little bit. I'm not going to go through these too much about some of the winners, how the phases work, and some of the other details. And this is run by one of our many offices here at DOE. So as you can see, there's some schedules and dates up and coming. And if you do want to dive into deep more about this, there are some links here and then also emails to ask questions. So a lot of times with these opportunities, they require you to go to the email, ask the question in the email, and then it'll be published on a Q&A afterwards, or you can look up the answer. Renew America's nonprofits. So similar idea, but with nonprofits. So the way that this works is there is a agency or an organization that has won it on behalf of multiple states. So as you can see, there is a like medium royal blue color here, University of Colorado Boulder, who has won that opportunity for the Intermountain West. And they will be putting out a program on how, if you're interested in learning more about nonprofits and energy efficiency upgrades. So it's kind of out of our hands at this point where DOE grants that money, and then this UC Boulder will be implementing how they want to do it with the rest of their areas that they're overseeing. Clean Energy to Communities program is a program that is hosted through MREA, so which some of you all mentioned, and then our office called EERE, Energy Efficiency Renewable Energy Office. So there are various tracks that you can get involved, and there is an application that is open that closes the 14th, and there are more details in there as well, and you can see some videos about what this has been like before, because this program has been implemented in various other ways. So there are resources to look and have. This is what's called a technical assistance program, so being able to work with the communities on their energy goals. This is a program that is being pushed out right now. And actually just got pushed out in the state of New York and will be happening all across the country. I actually saw a news spot on it on the Today Show a couple weeks ago. And what it is it's for the everyday consumer like you and me to be able to find home energy rebates. So based on whatever electrification upgrades or energy efficiency upgrades, there will be rebates coming out. There's a way to track it. So right now on the website, if you go to the website, again, all linked here, and you see Montana, Montana has submitted their application and they will be rolling out their program. So if you want to learn about this, you would go to Montana's state energy office, which I linked here, and they will show how you as the consumer can receive some rebates depending on what upgrades you have. So this is happening all across the country. So if you have friends in other states, it is different on how that gets implemented. But the first one just got implemented in New York about last week. And I grew up in upstate New York, so I told my mom about it in case that she had any energy efficiency upgrades. So definitely spread the word and tell your friends about that. So the additional programs part that I'm going to highlight are, let me just go back, are the CLEAP, some tax credits, and some other opportunities that might be of interest to you all to learn about what we have going on at DOE. And just a reminder is that this is not a full list of everything that's happening at DOE. I tried to pull out some things that would be most interesting to you all. But again, if you're reaching out to Bobby or Peter, they can help find more things that are even more specific or maybe completely different from this based on your energy needs and interests. So this is CLEAP. So this is a program that actually had a winner from Montana in Rosebud and Treasure counties. And so what I did here is I linked the page of the organization that has won the grant funding. And as you can see on the slide here, some of the things that they are doing in this CLEAP program is they're focusing on clean energy planning and development, carbon capture, critical materials, and advanced nuclear technology and support for existing reactors. So a really wide breadth of interests in that is being tackled by these counties. And with this cohort, they work with the national labs to provide, again, technical assistance to these communities with economic development in mind. Federal tax credits. So these are fun because they apply, there's so many of them out there. These are the two that are the most probably of interest: direct pay and elective pay. If you just search that into your internet browser, you'll be able to find that as well. And I linked it here in the chat. But these are tax credits to receive a payment equal to the value of the tax credits for building qualifying clean energy projects. There are also tax credits for developers, for manufacturers. There's a lot out there to explore, but these are the ones that I wanted to highlight: direct pay, also known as elective pay, and low-income community bonus credit. So that provides 10 or 20% point increase to investment tax credit for wind and solar facilities on a rolling application. There is an upcoming deadline at the end of the month, though. So I would check that out, look into it a little bit more. And if you have questions, we can try our best to either direct you to the right person or provide some clarification. This network I like to highlight. This is the Tic Tac network. That's what we like to call it. This came out of EPA. And the whole point of this opportunity was grant funding is a lot. It's a big beast to tackle in any form of the federal government, whether it's EPA, DOE, HUD, so Housing and Urban Development, whatever it may be, Department of Transportation. So communities who are working on their energy goals may not have the capacity to apply for these grant funding opportunities, and they need assistance. So this project was created by interagency working group with DOE, EPA, and various other organizations to try to support this effort. It is led by EPA, so this is on EPA's website, but what it is it's creating a network of local organizations to do that extra support. So my level at DOE is to tell you all about these programs, but I and our programs cannot help you apply for them. This is where they fill that gap. So these Tic Tacs, folks can go to these Tic Tacs. They can be connected to someone who is somewhat local, so regionally based, and be able to help them navigate some of these resources more than maybe myself and my colleagues can, and also help apply for these opportunities. Not everyone may have access to a grant writer, so they are really good opportunities to build community within their regions, also help strengthen their ability to apply and learn more about that process. So this is something that we like to highlight. Personally, I like to highlight of a resource to people. So you may know someone who could benefit from it. You yourself may be able to benefit from it. And all the links are there. If you Google the Tic Tac and EPA, it should come up for you. This is an opportunity that is live and happening now. So it's something that you might all be of interest. It says remote and island communities. However, that definition of remote is specific to this opportunity. So if you are thinking and you're reading this slide over and you think, this might be interesting to me, maybe we qualify, check it out. I'd rather tell you and then it not be a good fit than you not know about it at all. This is one of the programs that's coming out of the EERE office that I had mentioned before, and this is something they're looking to push as well. And so it looks like they're receiving project support and within a scoping phase for 12 to 18 months and energy planning and analysis projects. So they'll be able to be on the ground and support that work. Again, linked in the slides. And then this is another program that is coming out. This is from the State and Community Energy Program. So this is SCEP. This is another one of our offices that we had highlighted as well. And that letter of intent is due June 7th. So coming up, and then the full application July 12th. If you are interested, I would just search the name of this title into your internet browser, look at some of the details, look at what's out there already, and how you can apply if that is something that is interest of you. So we do have a lot of workforce development, job training type programs out there, and whether they're open or not, they are available. So it's worth checking out if that's a topic of interest you're interested in. If you notice, there's formula funding and competitive funding. That's just a different type of designation of funding, but this might be of interest to local states and communities depending on interest and goals. So something to throw out there as well into the mix. And then this one for all you EV folks, we have an office within EERE that is the joint office between DOE and DOT. And they also have their own funding. So I'm not sure if you've caught my drift, but every office has their own funding, their own database, their own maps to track projects. So it's a lot to navigate, and that's why we're here to help. But this one here is for folks who may be interested in charging and fueling infrastructure. That is due at the end of August. There are most often there are webinars, there are slides, there are overview documents, one pagers. And so we've listed that all here for you. And it looks like eligible applicants include states, metropolitan planning organizations, local governments, port authorities, tribes, territories, and more. So again, check out that website and see if that's something that is of interest to your communities or folks that you may know. So I ran through a lot of things. I realize that. I can go back and detail on them more, but I am coming to a close because I do want to help tie it up in a bow of saying, how can we connect with you? So you've learned about these opportunities, kind of got a little bit of a snapshot, may want to dive in depth more. What does that look like? You know, after you've sat with these opportunities, how can you still stay connected to my colleagues and I? So we can come travel and visit you. So Peter and or Bobby could come visit you all, speak to opportunities like this, whether it's virtual or in person. We're also happy to visit some areas as well. We're happy to keep you updated via emails, whether that's the various newsletters, or we also have virtual office hours similar to this, where we all get together, we talk about opportunities that are out there, and maybe topics of interest that we go a little more in depth in. So we actually have a virtual office hour coming up next Wednesday, and then every 2 Wednesdays from there. I'm seeing some questions in the chat, and before I go on to the slides, I do want to look at these questions. Looks like Sarah said, does DOE provide resources / have capacity to build collaborative partnerships to be eligible / competitive for many of these grants or programs? Or would this be primarily with the EJ centers? I'm assuming you're talking about TICTAC, Sarah, and if you want to clarify, feel free to. So what we do is we have resources that exist. So for example, we have the Better Buildings Initiative. If you search Better Buildings Initiative DOE, that is, you can join work groups. There are resources of people of building electrification, energy efficiency upgrades. Those are resources, and there actually are cohorts out there to build capacity and think about, how did you do this? You know, how can we work together? What worked for you? So there are kind of community building and capacity building that way, and also through the TICTACs, I would say. So you know, if you're starting to try to figure out how to navigate not only DOE federal funding programs, but EPA. So for example, Solar for All, that has a connection to DOE because it's energy, but that's an EPA program. So how do you navigate some of that stuff? I would also reach out to the TICTACs for that. So it's a little bit of yes, and it really depends, but we can try our best to help you navigate if you're looking for a specific topic that you want to kind of mobilize and build connections with. And also, depending on what the topic may be, myself and my colleagues can connect you with the actual offices themselves if they are willing and able to do that. Sometimes they can't because there might be funding opportunities that are out and they can't answer questions about that, but they might be having opportunities or resources to help you engage further. Can we get Peter and Bobby's email? Yes, I have it at the end of these slides. And Patrick says, thanks. Take care, Patrick. Again, these are many of the links that I have addressed already, but even more for you to dive into. So once you get these slides and these recordings, you can jump in and look at those yourselves. And as mentioned, here are the emails. So Bobby's is the third one down, and then Peter's is the bottom one down. So I will keep this on a long pause in case you want to screenshot it or take a picture. And it looks like McKenna put it in the chat. Thanks, McKenna. And this is my last slide. This is a general way to get involved with us. If you know folks who are in different states, different communities, different areas, you may not be sure what they want, but you think it'd be good for them to hear from us, feel free to send them that Get Engaged email. That email box goes to a member of our team, and they either try to help answer that question themselves, or they look for the answer like we would, or they'll connect you all to us if you're looking for specifically for information based on the territories and states that we cover. That's our website. Our website is up and running. The registration to our virtual office hours and a phone number. And again, all this will be sent out to you for you to be able to access. But that is my presentation for today. And I want to be mindful of time and be able to pause and answer any questions that you all might have.
Awesome. Thank you, Cece. Was a lot of info in a short amount of time. I think you win for keeping that all to a half hour and giving us about a dozen different DOE programs to reflect on. So, I mean, I think folks certainly recognize whether it's Renew America's schools, Renew America's nonprofits, C2C, the energy rebates that are coming through the state energy office, that there's a huge list of opportunity. It's just a matter of matching the opportunity with the capacity and the right fit with what's happening on the ground. So I just had some questions for you, Cece, about the TIC tax. If you'd be willing to, maybe we could start out there as people think about their questions, and please put them in the chat, and we can also move to a big group discussion and unmute and ask questions there as we move to this Q&A session. But we learned recently that those technical assistance centers, actually Montana State University was awarded for EPA Region 8. And so the contact there is Julia Haggerty, but my understanding is that that's just getting up and running off the ground. So could you share with us the intent, purpose, and timing of when we might be able to use that as a resource, and how competitive it is? Because also recognizing that technical assistance, there's only so much money that can only go so far.
Yeah. So that is unfortunately dependent on the Tic Tac themselves. So there was somebody hired from EPA at EPA to manage the program, right? And they also contracted out to Institute for Sustainable Communities to help oversee all of the Tic Tacs. And they are in various places. Some are up and running and have, cohorts. One's navigating resources, the other one is navigating that one-on-one assistance. That's, for example, where I am in Washington. So some of the states that I oversee are Washington. They've got theirs up and running. So it really depends, unfortunately. But what I would suggest is to reach out to them. So it looks like Montana Region 8. It's the International City/County Management Association that is serving Region 8, which includes Colorado, Montana, North Dakota, South Dakota, Utah, and Wyoming. And they actually have a JOT form, which I put right in there, that folks can use to reach out. And like you said, they may not be able to assist as much because they're still up and running. Unfortunately, that's something that is just really dependent on where they are. If you wanted to, you could always try reaching out to the other ones. It's not necessarily like strong advice to reach out to the other ones, but maybe they would be able to still help you or at least navigate a little bit. I'm not sure. Don't quote me on that, but maybe just a suggestion to try. Our programs at DOE won't be able to do as much one-on-one support of being able to help actually apply for the programs, but helping navigate what's out there is something that we can do. And those Tic Tacs will be able to do more of that in depth, like, hey, what are your goals? How do we write this? What does this template or outline look like? That stuff that we cannot help with, unfortunately, but we can help dig through all of these different websites and databases and ways to think about funding and tax credits. That's where we can come in. Did that help?
Yes, definitely. Thank you. Thanks for that. Any other questions for Cece?
Well, I just want to follow up. This is Karen Hilding. Yeah, McKenna, when you find out more about the technical assistance and when that's going to be available for Region 8 through that office, can you please let everyone know? Because I think that's, we're really missing that in Montana, having someone that can assist the cities with these various programs.
I would also say too, McKenna, before you jump in, is that I would see, maybe work with Bobby and Peter to see what's out there and what examples of energy projects that have already happened in Montana. I only highlighted two, but connecting with them and being like, hey, I saw that you won this program. Congratulations. Like, this is what we're doing. Is there any way or advice or lessons learned you could give to us? And I'm assuming the one that was highlighted back in February with your organization might be worth reaching back out to, whether that's a follow-up or something, because they might know how to navigate and talk about their experiences. So for example, I personally have been reaching out to some prize winners in my area. Sometimes they're hard to find, but I have been able to reach out to them and be like, what is this process like for you? Were you able to build capacity and coalition build and amplify? Like, what are some of the hurdles that you had? And so I like to know about it. So when I can tell people about these prize opportunities, I can speak on their behalf in the sense of, I've heard from other people and this is what's worked or this is what hasn't, because that is helpful. So I would suggest reaching out to them if they are okay with it. Obviously, we don't want to bombard people with too many questions, but if they're willing to talk about it, I would reach out to them as well, because there are plenty of other things that are probably going on in Montana that I don't know about. And those two programs that I mentioned are just scratching the surface. So I would reach out to them if you feel comfortable, and that's something that you can do while you're waiting for this Tic Tac stuff.
But I think you're right, Karen. The more communication we can have among stakeholders like those on this call, or if MREA is disseminating information in our newsletters, if we're connected up with DOE, or if there's a DEQ level, Montana level DEQ Energy Office program that needs to spread the word, it seems like it takes the whole village. So the more we can do that, the better. And I know that at least from MREA's point of view on the Renew America's Nonprofits Award, the university or CU Boulder architecture department, we did get in contact with them just to see what their plans are for Montana or their role in Montana with Renew America's Nonprofits. So more to come on that, I hope.
Hey, Cece.
Other questions? Yes.
This is David Zaslow from Citizens for Clean Energy in Great Falls. I was a little confused on your home energy rebates program slide between the $71 million allocation and the $1.8 million allocation. Is it something that I just missed, or can you distinguish between what Montana is eligible for versus what's been allocated?
Yeah, so I don't know the intense details about that, but it is a little confusing because Montana may have put in for a specific amount of money, but DOE said this is how much money we're going to give you. So that is what that discrepancy is. So it's what Montana put in versus what DOE has said that they are allowed to use or get from DOE. And then once DOE approves all of their paperwork and whatnot, Montana will work on distributing their program. And those numbers that I got are straight from the website. So if you have any more specific questions, we can help either elevate that question to get more in depth of an answer, because there are definitely some discrepancies. If you poke around in the other states, you're like, wait, why did California apply for this much and only get this much? That like technical answer I'm not sure about, but that is definitely something that is not just happening in Montana. It's that some states will put in more, but they may not get that much.
That makes sense. And then I was just sort of keeping a mental tally of these deadlines that flew past. And it looks like if one went to sleep for the next 3 months and woke up on August 31st, one would have missed every single one of these deadlines. Do all of these programs like dry up in a puff of smoke if they're not applied for by the end of the summer? Or are these annual allocations that we'll simply have to get on the next year's train for?
So the frustrating answer is it depends. So some of these programs are yearly programs, some of them are ongoing, some of them just depend on what funding is happening, and some of them are first time. So I think the Renew America Schools are definitely a newer program, so it's not necessarily going to happen again. However, this is not a guarantee, but it is sometimes if they don't get enough people who have applied to it, they will open it up. Or if they see that it's really popular and they still have funding, they'll do an additional round. And again, the not fun answer that is really tough to navigate is that, these are all different offices and these are all different, like, 10 plus people teams that are working on each one of these programs, in addition to maybe tens, if not more, of other staff. So it's not like if you sign up for the SCEP, so SCEP, State and Community Energy Programs Office, if you sign up for their newsletters, you might miss the EERE ones because you're not on the EERE newsletters. So that can be really tough and frustrating with tracking all these deadlines. It doesn't mean that it dries up completely, though. There are other funding programs that might touch upon technical assistance, for example, in different offices. But again, it really depends. And yes, sometimes they come out again. No, they don't always come out again. So there's no guarantee, unfortunately. I know that's not a great answer, but it does give a little bit of context, hopefully.
Yeah, I wasn't really looking for guarantees. I was really just looking more for like a calendar. Like
Yeah.
August 15th is the deadline for this year. August 15th, 2025 would be the deadline for next year if it's an annual program. So if you could like put the next two deadlines instead of just the current one we're all about to miss, it would kind of suggest an annual recurring thing versus a one-shot deal.
Yeah, not always that much of a future planning where we would be able to predict that, nor would we be able to say too. So if we
Okay.
said, if it says out in public that it's a yearly program, then unfortunately yourself might have to say, okay, I'm going to set a calendar reminder and think about this next time it comes around. But it's not like we're going to say, set your calendars,
Yeah.
this program's coming out next year.
Okay. And then my last question was this current slide talks about the OCE's mission to catalyze and center on justice, equity, and inclusion. If we're part of a nonprofit group that is trying to raise awareness in a city of Montana that really doesn't understand DEI or justice or equity at all, is that kind of basic training something we can apply to DOE or other government agencies for assistance with hiring practitioners to come in and sort of give us training on that stuff?
I don't know. We do have an office that is EJE, so it stands for Environmental Justice, Energy Justice and Equity. So they kind of take care of DEI as a whole at DOE. But I think, sometimes these words can feel a lot and they can be buzzworthy, but there is truth behind them. And so that learning process can be different depending on the community you're talking to, the people you're talking to, and everyone's growth and learning is on a different path. So I think the thing, yes, that is in our mission because it is important to state that. And a lot of it is access. So removing barriers and access and communication and transparency as much as possible. But it's not like we have a roster of trainers or, consultants that you could reach out to think about that. But EJE itself might have some resources. And in my follow-up, I can maybe add a slide about this before it gets sent out to all of you of EJE's contact information. So if you do want to ask them, but they're not necessarily going to have like, a repository of folks that you could reach out to think about this, but they might have some resources and links or organizations that might be doing some good work that you could either speak to or take from like one pagers stuff they might have.
That makes sense. In this case, we found folks. We're just looking for help with funding.
Ah, yes.
But
No, I
I'll
don't
get
think we
off the
would have
pedestal.
funding for that. No, that's
Okay.
okay. Just thinking about your question, no, I don't think we would have funding specifically for that.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for your questions.
I just wanted to jump in quickly, David, and address your first question, which Bonnie Rouse did put, also from our office, did put into the chat on the differences with the funding that you saw on that slide. So there's a certain amount that's set aside for each state, and Montana's allocation was 71 million split between the two rebate programs, and we were eligible to apply for early administrative funds. So that $1.7 million was for early administrative funds, which is what we have been awarded, and that's what's helping us hire a contractor to help us with the design and then eventual implementation of the program. And our full application for full funding for the rebates will come at a later date. So that's what that 1.7 is, early administrative funds.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks so much for clarifying that. Yes, I am no energy expert. I am just an energy navigator. So I really appreciate us all helping and answering those questions. Thanks.
Further questions for Cece while we have her? I think one helpful tool is those biweekly office hours. And Cece, maybe you could share with us a little more of how those go. Like, is it open floor? Do you get time for one-on-one? Is there 100 people on those office hours? And how could we make best use of those and your office when we walk away from this meeting today?
We would love to have 100 people. So if 10 people tell 10 friends, then we'll get there. So yes, tell your friends, spread the word. It's definitely something where we had a lot of people and it's kind of plateaued. Summer's coming up. So that is definitely something we would love to have you all. We do usually try to make time for one-on-one. So what we'll do at the end is we'll rapid fire run through opportunities, funding announcements that we can find. We'll share them out at that office hours event, and then we try to do a breakout rooms with the specialists. So you could get some FaceTime with Bobby and be like, hey, Bobby, can we actually set up a longer meeting? I know we only have 10 minutes, but would love to learn a little bit more about this. Or, I'm trying to be connected to this. Can you help me? So does create FaceTime with all of us because we'll be in those breakout rooms. And then some of the topics. So a topic that I'm excited that I'll be helping host is talking to my previous employer who is the in between the communities and NREL to actually facilitate the C-Elite programs in California and Florida. So they'll be talking about their experiences and what that's been like to help the community shape the project that they want with the assistance of the NREL as technical assistants, and they are those middle people communicators. So that's something that we're having them come at the end of the month. Our last office hours was about the EECBG program, so energy efficiency. I think it's, oh my gosh, I'm blanking on the one. I think it's Community Block Grant Program. Yeah, that should be it. But that's a program where cities and counties have funding that is set aside for them to use for their energy efficiency projects. So a really common thing that cities and counties have been using them for is to upgrade streetlights from older light bulbs to newer energy efficiency light bulbs, because that will save the city thousands, if not millions of dollars just to literally keep the lights on. So those programs are out there for them. And that's what was highlighted last time because they have awarded many of those already, but there are still some communities that need to apply for that. Conservation block. Thanks, McKenna, for saving me. If you actually Google or put in your web browser EECBG, you can actually find out there's public information of who cities and counties, how much money they're entitled to. And we can help you find out if they've accessed them or not, but a lot of them have already. I think I went on a tangent, so apologies there. But yes, one-on-one FaceTime at the office hours.
Excellent. Thank you, Cece. Any other questions before we wrap up for the afternoon? Okay. Well, seeing none in the chat and knowing that I think this slide deck is going to be very valuable to everyone once we have a moment to sit with it and follow all the web links, I think that we can call it there. Thank you so much, everyone, for attending this June Exploring Energy series. And thank you to the DOE Office of Community Engagement for sharing more about their work. One thing that we didn't get to mention is that the Office of Community Engagement is pretty new, right? Only a few years old.
Oh, we are not even a year. We are still in infancy. I started in January, and I think the office started maybe 2 or 3 months before that. So we are the new kids on the block, and we just appreciate you all having us come talk about the work that we do and spreading the word to help deploy all of this funding that's out there. So really appreciate.
Yeah, well, thank you. And that even speaks volumes, the fact that this office is so new and yet you're able to spread the word and tell us about your function. I hope that folks in Montana are able to take the opportunity to use it. So that concludes our June Exploring Energy series. We will have a very patriotic Exploring Energy series on Wednesday, July 3rd, 2024. So be on the lookout for that. And we want this to be open and useful dialogue for the MREA network and our membership. So if you have a series suggestion for a future Exploring Energy series topic that you think would be useful for the MREA members or your work that you're doing on the local or state level, we want to hear about it. So I've added the share the suggestions for the Exploring Energy series box in the chat there. So please follow that link. And then my last and final reminder is that the Exploring Energy series is hosted by MREA, and that's because we have the members and the interest to do it. So if you like the work that we're doing, if you like the Exploring Energy series, please do join up as a member or organizational member of MREA. I'm happy to talk to you about that. And spread the word about our flagship summer event, the Clean Energy Fair, on August 24th. Thank you, everyone. We'll see you next month.
Thanks, McKenna.